Hey everybody, Brickhouse here, and to chalk this one up to the column of we just can't have nice things, not only does Hollywood put stuff out there and change things for the modern times, but game developers do the same thing. And in this instance, it just happens to be one of the most iconic characters out there in video game land, and that is Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. Now, Crystal Dynamics, who decided to re-release the original Tomb Raider games completely uncensored, meaning that they're not going to make any changes, or they shouldn't be making any changes, decided it was a good idea to put a disclaimer out there when you first start the game. And here's the disclaimer. The games in this collection contain offensive depictions of people and cultures rooted in racial and ethnic prejudices. These stereotypes are deeply harmful, inexcusable, and do not align with our values at Crystal Dynamics. Rather than removing this content, we have chosen to present it here in its original form, unaltered, in the hopes that we may acknowledge its harmful impact and learn from it. Really, Crystal Dynamics? You had to put a disclaimer in front of the game because, ooh, modern times, ooh, modern audience. Though the developer did not provide details as to which cultural depictions they felt warranted such a warning, an educated guess suggests it was made in reference to the various local enemies encountered by Lara Croft throughout her first three adventures, and more specifically, the Polynesian tribesmen enemies depicted in Tomb Raider 3: Adventures of Lara Croft. Now, I'm going to say this. Can we just get back to a time where we're not perpetually offended by everything? Whether it's in a movie, TV show, a video game. We don't need warning labels. We don't need warning signs. We don't need warnings that something might be offensive because of how somebody's depicted. Let's just get back to some common sense. We play video games just to pass the time and be entertained. Just like we want to watch a movie to be entertained. We don't need Crystal Dynamics virtue signaling that something might be offensive in a game, but we made a decision to not censor it. We just wanted to warn you. So continuing with the article here and bounding into comics. Embarrassing moment of political virtue. Crystal Dynamics look no further than the use of the emotionally charged yet appropriately vague term harmful impact to describe their supposed issue with the game's visual representations. Has any single individual ever truly suffered harm as a result of the game's use of tribal aesthetics on some of its enemies? The answer to that would be no. Otherwise, wouldn't some news outlet have covered such a story? After all, with video games, real-world harm, and a sexy female protagonist, it's got all the makings of a ratings-boosting moral panic. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying this is a step in the right direction for the video game industry as a whole. My belief is parents should be watching what their kids are playing. And if a parent thinks a kid shouldn't be playing Tomb Raider, then the kid shouldn't be playing Tomb Raider. We don't need to be monitoring or putting warning signs in front of video games. As players are no doubt aware of, as more and more games have received remasters or remakes in recent years, so too have more and more developers taken to sanding off the edges from the source material in an effort to make it appeal to wider audiences. In other words, update it for the modern audience to fit the time period we are in today. Look no further than the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not only is such an act a disservice to the artistic vision of the given title's original creative team, but it's also infantilizing to audiences, as the presentation of such a tut-tut implies that audiences are either too dumb to separate the real world from fiction or too fragile to handle anything outside of their bubble, which, while an apt description of the terminally online, this warning was obviously made for, does not apply to the other 99% of players who are capable of critical thinking. Not wrong. Have to remember, video games are fantasy. They're not reality. I used to game quite a bit when I was younger. In the 90s, early 2000s. I don't game as much anymore, although I have picked up Batman Arkham Asylum again. Just because, you know, the whole Suicide Squad Justice League game and what they did to Batman. Well, I figured, you know what? I'm just going to restart playing the game from scratch. So I've been playing it off and on here the last couple of weeks. Now, presenting the game in its original form while also appeasing said activists with such sad warnings is objectively a better outcome than butchering their content in deference to the modern sensibilities. Of course, that doesn't mean that there's going to be pushback and criticism of such warnings. Such should come to an end. Rather, it signals a slight hope that developers may be getting at least somewhat sick of social media's emotional pearl clutching. You guys have to remember, too, social media is not real. Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered appears to be the second collection title to display such a warning amidst the entertainment industry's currently censor-heavy ecosystem. Last April, much to the joy of many a franchise fan, Capcom took a similar path with the release of the Mega Man Battle Network. However, rather than attempting to claim its contents had ever harmed anyone, the disclaimer instead described them as insensitive. Here's Capcom's statement. Capcom values this diversity and inclusivity within its games and its community. Please be aware the games in this collection may contain some cases of insensitive cultural depictions that are presented as originally created to preserve their authenticity. Stop. We don't need warning signs. We don't need warning labels like this when you fire up a game and start a game for the first time to appease those on social media. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Are companies ever going to learn that this is not the way to go? If you want to rehash an old game and remaster it and re-release it, do it. You don't need to censor it. You don't need to put a warning sign ahead of it starting. Just put it out there. And if people want to clutch pearls on social media about how they're offended or they find it offensive, so what? It's time to get back to some logic and reasoning. So that's all I have for right now, folks. Comment down below, share your thoughts, share your opinion, tell me what you think. While you're at it, please take the time to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video, and I will see you later.